Alright, so this will be the guide. I'll start off with the skills and the explanation. So, for starters, what does BQ do? What she does is she summons a mirror and that she creates a reflection. That reflection can do anything that she does. Her main body vaults, the mirror body will vault. The main body hits. If a survivor is on the other side with the reflection, it'll take damage. So that's basically what she does in general. What makes her so great is that she can walk through literally anything. So that's why they say she has one of the best early chases that one could possibly have, because she can just walk through anything, and if you get your mirror right, then you don't have to worry about not getting a hit. The rotation of the mirror I use when I put down a mirror, if I have tinnitus, I don't know where the survivor might be, so I put a mirror down, I rotate it and see if it tells me the general vicinity of where the survivor is. If it doesn't, it might highlight the survivor for me if it's put in the right area. Another reason why I use this is if I put down a bad mirror, I can rotate it and it can hopefully, or sometimes it will, turn it in a way that it's a good mirror and you can reach the survivor if you place it very badly. Then the second presence, what this does is basically you see a lot of BQs place their mirror late game usually, or mid to late game once they have this presence, directly on top of the survivor. This is because, as it says, if you put it in between like 4 or 5 meters, it generates a duplicate of that survivor that's blue and it looks like the mirror. So that's why, let's say if a survivor is running straight forward, you put a mirror down on top of it. If they keep running forward, that survivor, the reflection that it makes will run straight toward you and you can just hit it. And this just makes it easier than having to look like in the beginning of the game. You don't have this presence, so you have to properly aim it, have a lot of depth perception, things like that. It just makes it easier. And then another thing that it does is, let's say you have your mirror on cooldown, the 15 seconds, and you get this presence during the 15-second cooldown. It cancels the cooldown and it gives you a free mirror. So this is why you have to pay attention to it, because if you use it when your mirror is up with that yellow bar, you won't get the free mirror. This is why it's very important to pay attention to this when you're camping, or see when most you need it and see if you're able to utilize it. If you can't, then just don't go for it. As for traits, the main trait I use is blink, just because if you're having a bad chase, you miss a mirror, you want to get that survivor down as quick as possible. You don't want to keep waiting on that mirror, so blink is there as a backup. It can also help if you want to get a double down on the rescuer. The rescuer might be a little bit far, so you just walk up to it and then blink on him. Then by that time your mirror cooldown should be up and you can mirror down on the actual survivor. Then I use excitement. That's the second most used trait I use because of things like forward, enchantress, prospector, batter, that type of stuff, so that it's just easier for me to chase but also chair. So it's important to utilize it in a way where, let's say an enchantress has 1 stack, you're trying to get that final hit. I would use excitement. They use the stack while I have excitement up, and I down them instead of them using the stack, them throwing down a pallet, and then me having to go around and just wait for another mirror, and I don't even use excitement. Then for late game, I will use teleport. That's the main thing you want to switch to because it just allows for better mobility. This plus the mirror that you have is basically like a Wu Chang, so you can get a lot of pressure out of it whenever you're trying to slow down the end of the game and prevent that cipher rush. Another trait that people often switch to is abnormal. This is if they're having a bad game or if they're really in desperate need of that cipher or extra time to make up for what they didn't have in the beginning. It extends the game so that you're able to pop a few more mirrors, hopefully more damage, and you can chair and wrap things up, kind of like a second chance. Normally you want to use this at 2 ciphers. You have to calculate it so you don't end up using it at 1 cipher when the cipher is literally primed and the survivors end up popping the cipher in the middle of the abnormal animation, which sucks. Trust me, I've been there. And then you don't end up having teleport for the late game and it just ends up being a tie. Or maybe even a loss, depending on where you are. As for the other traits, I haven't really found much use for Patroller or Listen. You can use Peepers if that's your strategy late game to slug people instead of chairing them, or just to put them down next to ciphers so that the cipher rush slows down and you can control it. Now we will be moving on to how to place a mirror correctly. I'll be using Sacred just because there's a lot of open kiting areas where survivors tend to go to. So that's just why I'm using this one. So I'm going to go to the area next to statue. The number 1 rule of putting down a mirror is to make sure you're in an open area. I don't know if you heard that, but be in an open area. As you can see, there's a lot of space for my body to move. Nothing is obstructing me. No rocks, no trees, no nothing. It's just completely flat ground. And that's what you want in order to be able to move, because that's all you can do with a mirror. You need to move. So the next thing you need to do is analyze the area. You have to see what a survivor can do. It can go through that pallet, this pallet, and then you want to make sure that you put the mirror outside of the kiting area. And then you use the open area that you established from rule number 1 and apply it so that you're able to move freely within the entire area. You should not be able to not reach any specific part if you mirror correctly. You can try it from a different angle too. That angle I bumped into like that weird dresser, and then here I'm putting it in a more closed area. Although I am able to maneuver around pretty well, it is more difficult. You see I got caught in that tree and it just makes it harder. So that's why you would prefer a more open space than one with those obstacles. You see, again, go to the open area, please. That's all you need to do. You never want to put your mirror inside the kiting area, because if that pallet is dropped down, what am I going to do? I can't reach that entire area where my hitbox can't reach in the middle. What you'll have to end up doing is switch the mirror if you want to. But even then, the survivor might go through the other pallet, and it's better to do it from outside where you can reach the entire area. I also use those pallets as a guide. Just use things as guide as you go along. It's easier for you when you're learning, or just in every day. You use things as a guide. Now over here with walls, you'll do the same thing. You're in this open area. You're able to move around freely with little to no obstacles. That tree is in the way, but you can work around it. And then again, use the wall as the guide. You want it to be as flat as possible so that when you're walking from side to side, you don't end up moving crookedly. Like that one is a little crooked, but it gets the job done. So these walls will be your best friend. Just try and place it as flat as possible. And hold out your mirror if you need to. You can try doing it from a different angle. You see here, you're able to do it as well. Just do whatever works for you. It also helps knowing the terrain that you're on. The more you play, the more experience you'll get, and the more you'll know about the actual map and where, like which tree is where, what I need to move around. in order to make things work. You saw that that bed thing was in the way a little bit. And in this area, since you mirrored crooked like that, you see how I'm knocking into all these walls, and it's harder for me to get into all the crevices where a survivor could hide behind a pallet and things like that. So that's why it's better to mirror flat against something, use it as a guide, and have it be as close to but not inside the actual kiting space. I've also gotten questions on how to measure distances of a mirror, like long distance wise. The only thing I can really tell you is it comes with practice. I know you guys hate to hear that, but some advice that I can give you is look for the middle point. It's not hard. It's like you're cutting things in half. That's what I like to describe it to people that ask me this question. Cut things in half. You find the middle point, you put the mirror there, and it's a reflection. The same distance you are, your main body is from the mirror, the same distance will reflect from the mirror to the mirror body. And the mirror can only go so far. You see my mirror icon as I'm dragging it. My finger is all the way up to the ledge. And then once you reach that point, you have to use your main body to physically move it. So I'm doing it again. You get used to the distance as the more you use her. I put the mirror down and then I move back to cover the rest of the distance and measure it out. And you see I landed on the cipher. You can try practicing that in single training. That's the mode that I'm in custom mode. Once the mirror finishes, the uptime, you'll have no cooldown, so it's easy for you to go in and practice by yourself. Get used to dragging the mirror, get used to finding the middle point, because that's all you're going to be doing for long distance mirrors. And again, use things as your guide, people, please. It makes things easier in this game. Also, when you do place down a mirror, like right there, you place it on a pallet. A survivor is trying to go to a pallet. In areas like these, the survivor will reach the pallet, you mirror, and they'll have no choice but to either run into your mirror, go left, or go right. And if you're in an open area, you'll be able to move all directions in order to get that hit off the survivor. So now we're going to the portion of the video where I'll go through each map and just show you common places that you should mirror, or how you should mirror. This is graveyard. What you want to do is basically cut things in half so that your mirror image ends up on the side of the pallet. That way you can close in and out on people and then move the direction. You do that with like every pallet. That's how I do it. You might have a different way of doing it. This is what works for me. So moving on to the next one, you want to apply that rule of keeping the mirror outside of the kiting area. This one is a little bit inside just so I can reach. It varies depending on how far in the person is. And again, I'm in this open area because it's just easier. And as you can see, I can switch just to show you what this area covers. The next area is this thing, this little box over here is an open area. I put it a little bit inside just so I can cover the very back portion of it. And as you can see, the hitbox will reach it. That's how big Mary's hitbox is. And as you can see, you put it outside, it's the same thing. Area number 3, these are just 2 long little hallways. You can trap the survivor inside. That's what you want to do. Make sure that your mirror isn't in between the pallet so they can't really go back and forth between it. You want to make sure that you can reach it from one side at least. For Shack, it doesn't really matter where you place it. I like placing it from this side, as long as you're able to go from left to right and go back around Shack. It's good. Use the window as well as whatever windows it may have to see where the survivor is. And I can put it a little bit more in Shack if I need to. And then if I can't reach a certain spot, I can just switch and hit it. Or hit the survivor. This general area, I can't really tell you specific mirrors I use. I just like to be outside generally here. Sometimes like that space in front right there, you can put a mirror from there, use that open space. Here, I like to cut this thing in half and trap a survivor that may be decoding right there. Here is now just basically repeating the same things as before, so you can probably turn the playback speed 2 times 2 if you like, or more if you want it to go by faster. Here I sometimes place it a little bit inside so I can reach the farther back area. As you can see, you can't really reach inside there, so the next thing that you could do is just switch and hit them, depending on where they go. I tend to not use mirrors in hospital really, but one that might be able to help you is cut the entire hospital in half. As you can see, if I switch right now, I'm on the other side of the staircase. But it's kind of rendered a little bit useless because they can drop through the holes. And here, if someone is looping you in this area, like going through that window and then going back out again, what you can do is climb out this window and then put your mirror ahead of them so that they'll stop going that way. Or what you can also do is from inside, while you're walking this way, you can place the mirror, jump out, and the mirror will appear right in front of them. If they catch on to this, they might go straight to past this rocket chair, or loop back around and through that pallet in that direction. I actually quite like Lakeside. It's one of my favorite maps for BQ. So, starting with Shack, same old, same old. Then moving on to one of my favorite tricks is your mirror can actually hit people on Little Boat. The hitbox is tall enough so that if you put your mirror down right, you're able to hit a survivor that's just standing there waiting for you. As you can see, I can switch and I appear on top of it. What's important to note about this is that you have to place your mirror so that you're able to cover the entire area of the Little Boat. It's very hard to tell or figure out the depth perception on Little Boat. So that is an area where you can put your mirror. There isn't that much space because of the rock, but if you put it on this side, this little area is where it stops. So you could try putting your mirror at this cipher, but you won't be able to quite reach all of it, just a certain portion. So you might want to back out a little bit so that you have more area. As you can see to my right, there's more open space for you to use. So around this pole maybe is where you would want to put it. Next up is the same 2 little hallways. You can trap a survivor in it. It doesn't really matter where you put the mirror because you trap them regardless, and if you can't reach a certain spot, you just switch and then you hit them as well. Like here, you can place it outside, but in these instances where you're able to trap the survivor in only a 2-direction area, it doesn't matter. You'll see that I switch and then swing, which is what you do if a survivor vaults the pallet, because you're able to make it in time and hit. Here, same as Little Boat, your hitbox is tall enough to hit anyone that's going on this bridge. So just be aware of that. And the same on the boat, like the actual bottom of the boat. You can hit people on there. It's slightly elevated. And for the rest of the boat, the only thing you can really do is cut the boat in half. Moving on to Moonlit, you can cut the entire stairwell in half. As you can see, it reflects back onto the other side. You can use the little locker or that line in the middle as a guide on where to place your mirror. Your hitbox is tall enough to reach the people on here. It's just a little bit hard to tell where they are. For some reason, it's harder to tell if they're forward, backward. The depth perception on here is just sucky. As you can see, I thought I was on here, but I was actually on the other side. This mirror is specific to Moonlit on the second and third stops, because if a survivor tries to go up here, you can trap them in with your mirror. They're almost guaranteed to get hit. You can sometimes terror shock them if they decide to vault, and you put the mirror up in time. This works on both sides of the stop, as well as on the stop on the other side of the map. If a survivor does get on a slide, again, trap them with your mirror, cut the thing in half. You want to put the mirror a little bit in front of that stick that's holding up the slide, just because of how it's built. If a survivor slides down, you can go back down and with your reflection and hit them from down there, or you can bait them and switch. Let's say the roller coaster is here and a survivor gets on it and they leave you behind. What you can do is go all the way up to the ledge, put your mirror as far as it goes, place it, go back, and then switch. You might end up vaulting like I did, which was a mistake, but you could catch up to the survivor and terror shock them while they're still going on the thing, depending on how fast you're able to do it, or you're on the other side and you won't have to walk a literal mile to catch up to them. It's important to note that you can't do this going the other way, because as you can see, you have all this space on this side to place your mirror, but if I go to the other side, the space that they have it literally fits on my screen. It's very short, so that's why it doesn't work. The bridges, use those middle trees and boxes to your advantage. Use it as a guide. You can trap a survivor on here, except for Priestess, because Priestess is a roach. She can go through shit. You can do it the same going that side, as you can see. Again, use that middle line as your guide. You can't do this with Roach again because she can portal sideways and just do random things like that. This applies to both carousels. Survivors like to just walk around the carousel and you're forced to walk with them to try and catch up. What you can do is cut the carousel in half. But as you can see, this one's a little far out because I didn't do it right. What you can do is you can use the lines on the carousel on the floor as a guide, and you'll see me place it directly on the line and see how that changes it. It was placed directly on the line, and now as you can see, this is hugging the carousel with my reflection very tightly. And that just forces them to keep moving straight as opposed to looping you, because they'll run into you eventually. Leos can really be a hit or miss depending on how you place your mirrors. One thing to keep in mind is there still is this area back here, but rarely does anyone ever go back there. In this area next to Christmas Tree Gate, the survivors like to loop around these pallets, just go in like a circle or an oval really. You'll see me demonstrate here how they go. But it's important to know that you try and cut them off. So as you're going into that space, you put a mirror down and they're gonna run into your mirror. They're forced to either go left or right or back. So it really depends. And then you're in a good area. You always want to mirror from this area since it's more open than the other sides. If a survivor drops this pallet down, you can put a mirror down here and move to the right since they generally go to this pallet that's past this wall. You can go all the way, and it's important here to make your mirror as flat as possible, or else you're going to be going diagonally and it's not going to work out. Like you see, that one's a little slightly crooked, but it still moves in the same area. It isn't straying too far off. As you can see, this one was pretty crooked, and I'm trying to maintain going in a straight line on the other side, but I have to go very weirdly. And if I walk the straight line, you'll see where my mirror ends up. And another thing about this one is you want to pay attention to where the survivor goes. If a survivor goes left, you're not going to be able to use your mirror. You'll have to switch, and then you have to try catching them in this area. That's why you have to pay attention to them going to, specifically to the right, since that's the only area you can cover. Now up here, pay attention to where the survivor goes. If the survivor drops down, you're going to have to drop down as well. But once they go past the drop, what you can do is trap a survivor in this area right here. So you can do it leading up to where they're going. You can look down. I'll point it down just so you can get a reference of how it looks. As you place your mirror and you keep walking, they're already going to be going down this hallway, and you'll just block them in with your mirror, guaranteeing a hit. I'll just go ahead and demonstrate again, as you can see. And then you can put it a little bit farther, and you'll end up on the other side as well. Now going from this area down here, you can put your mirror using the door frame as a guide, and as you go up, if a survivor is near, it'll end up going to that side, and then you can switch. I don't tend to use this one just because it isn't that practical. The one that I use is similar to the one before that I showed you, which is going up the stairs. You put a mirror behind you. That way, when you walk up here, they have nowhere to go. They're trapped. The only thing that they can do is go in these little spaces to the left and the right, but the survivors I've come across aren't smart, and they don't really use it. I've only had it happen like 3-4 times. It's not that much. But if they do, then you can just get closer and switch the mirror and hit them. Since this is also an elevated surface, you can do the thing that you just have to be sure to do it quickly so that the survivor doesn't have enough time to react, or they don't move far enough so where you're able to get a hit. So now I'll do the final map, which is Eversleeping. A lot of BQs don't like this map because of the buildings. They can't really put their entire mirror through, and it takes a lot of work, but I do like this map. There's a lot of open areas around the edges. Then there's also that stupid tram. Be sure you don't get hit by the tram. It sucks when that happens. But in Eversleeping, there's a lot of these hallways where you can trap survivors in. There, over here too, which is pretty good for BQ. Of course, Priestess is a no-go in this map. And here, that's a basic mirror. You can also use it to cut these buildings in half. That one kind of did the job. You can walk on the other side and get hits like that. It's important to know in this map, you want to be outside on the edges of it because there's more open space there. Like here, it's a lot of open space. That's why I tell you to chair in specific locations. Like this is an open chair. You can mirror far from here and you have a lot of open space as opposed to inside. There as well, that's a good chair where I'm pointing at. Here is as well. It's just open. And then it leads to hallways which you can trap people in with your mirrors. So you really want to avoid staying in the middle. Now, of course you can do that, but if you're just going up the thing normally, you always want to make sure to go down this hole. You want to make sure that happens because you don't want the survivor to come back around and go under and up the stairs again. So you have to make sure that you go far enough so that they vault the window and you're able to drop down and be in their way. And then what they'll normally do is they'll go to that window behind this tram, which I'll wait for it to leave. You'll end up putting a mirror down and you'll have them go back in the middle of this open area where you'll get a hit. Here as well, you can trap the survivor since it's a long place to move. When you put down this mirror, be sure to watch out for trams so you don't get run over. So I won't be showing arms because it's just a basic map, and then Chinatown is just hell. I don't play BQ in Chinatown unless you're very hardcore. Good luck. But now we'll be going on to the tricks. Guess that's what we're gonna do. So as you can see here, we're in Sacred. I'm gonna go up, and this, you've seen me done this in maps. In 2 stories or in tall places, you can mirror and your image reflects on top, so the survivor can't see it. Of course, they can react to the actual mirror that's on the floor facing them, and they'll be afraid to move around. But that's why you have to do it and then quickly turn around or switch places with the mirror so that you'll catch them off guard. You can see here that I'm doing the same thing on Moonlit. Usually there's a cipher there. Just performing the same thing. So now here I am using the mirror to avoid vaulting and just cancel the vault animation. This didn't work because the mirror image, it wasn't far over the edge from where it was, or from where I was trying to go, which was the bottom of the boat. So you have to look out for that and be sure that it's a little way over the edge. Like that one will go through, you'll see. So for example, if a survivor was running there, they were gonna vault, you can do that. Switch quickly, then hit so you avoid vaulting and having them go back into boat. Similarly here, when you're going up the stairs, you can put that mirror there, and usually it's blind because you can't really see the mirror until after you place it. There you could hit them at that windowsill, same with this. And then the same thing, it wasn't far enough out. So I landed, or when I switched, I landed inside the building instead of outside. So that one I'm doing it a little farther. This one, it did happen to go out. So you could do the exact same thing here. And then it also works from the other side as well. I'll demonstrate it. And you'll see how you're not able to see the mirror when you're placing it because it's behind the wall. That one you can already tell it's a little far out. I landed way out, but you get the gist of it. Alright, so this is a basement trick. It works for every basement. Here you'll see these chairs. Sometimes they're laid out like this, sometimes they're laid out 4 together. But basically this is to maybe stuff a rescue. It only works for those back 2 chairs on the right. As you can see, I put my mirror at the very start of where these steps are. The plan is to hit a survivor while they're going down the steps, then attack recovery, and when it finishes, you end up over there. So it was a little far out, so you could try pushing it in maybe. Here you do the same thing, you hit someone up there, you walk down, and then you're in a position to be able to stuff them. That is if you have Berserker. So there you can just see how I do it. I don't really use this trick, but if you try it and it works for you, then that's great. So here we are building a scenario in which you have someone in basement and then the cipher is popped. Sorry for not highlighting the exit gates. I tried to look for it in settings, but I couldn't. So what you do is basically you're trying to see if someone's at the gate. You put your mirror up to the gate, turn it maybe to see if someone's there. And then you teleport. You do this so you can sort of guard the gate while your mirror is up. And then if you need to go back and you see an outline on someone coming to rescue, then you have your ability to teleport using that mirror. Here you can see it. I'm demonstrating on the other side as well. And this doesn't have to be in the basement. This can be if you're guarding a cipher and the chair at the same time. You just switch those things. So the basement could be the chair, the exit gate could be the cipher. Alright, so in this section of the video, we will be talking about BQ's counters. So she does actually have quite a bit of counters, which I didn't realize until making this video. But they're separated into 3 groups. The first group being the multi-hits, the second group being the dashers, and then the third smallest group is the invisibles. So multi-hits is self-explanatory. These are people who can tank multiple hits, and BQ suffers with that because she only has 1 mirror every 15 seconds, and it just takes forever to down them. You have to be very patient sometimes. You have to be fast about it. It really depends on who you're going against. This group includes Perfumer, Doctor, Psycho, Gardener, Seer, Grave, and Barmaid. I found that with Doctor and Barmaid, the easiest way to down them is to get a basic hit first, then do a mirror straight after. Because between the time you get a basic hit, the attack recovery, your mirror is available, and you should be able to aim the mirror right and down them. Because Doctor heals fast, Barmaid, you won't be able to catch up to her if your mirror is recharging. Perfumer kind of works similarly as well. I always count to 6 for her perfume. That's how much it is when she goes back, the cooldown. But what you can do for her, the same thing. If you're not patient, you hit the perfumer regularly, a basic hit preferably. It doesn't matter if I like to hit the perfume because she just goes back and whatever, she wastes the perfume because I don't want to bait it out. I'm too lazy. You do that and then immediately mirror after so you can actually get a hit after that perfumed hit while her perfume is on cooldown. Psycho, she just takes 3 hits. The only thing for her is to wait for that stress to go away after the first hit, or before you fully down her. It takes around 40 seconds. I think they're gonna nerf it to 30 something, I'm not sure, but it's still a pain in the ass. Gardener, what she can do, she creates bubbles, and a good gardener, I haven't gone up against a good one, but as soon as they hear the mirror, they will stand still. And if they stand still, you know that they get the bubble. So her bubble recall time is basically the same, or it's faster than the BQ mirror going up and you hitting. So by the time you hit, you'll actually hit the bubble. So just keep in mind of that. Seer, I ban him. He's an S tier character. I don't like him. Grave, he can be easy to chase. I chase him if the team comp is like very ugly and he's my only target, but his shovel is very fast and BQ is slow. So getting basic hits is just, it takes a while. I've gotten kited to 2 ciphers by a Gravekeeper. They can be the first target, but if you're not experienced, it might come hard for you. Now moving on to the Dashers. This group includes Forward, Merc, Cowboy, Patient, Dancer, Annie, and Wilding. Dashers is self-explanatory. These are survivors that can exit the mirror radius and make it harder for you to hit them with the actual mirror. Starting off with Merc, he has elbow pads, which if you put a mirror up, you can elbow pad away, he'll waste your mirror, and you won't be able to get a hit with the mirror, and you're stuck trying to hit him with a basic hit. What you can do to counter this is you can go up to him like you're trying to get a basic hit, but you're not actually going to hit him with a basic. You're going to make him use that elbow pad, then immediately after, put up your mirror and get a hit off him while the elbow pad cooldown is going down, and he's also away from any terrain like walls, trees that he can use his second elbow pad on. Forward, that guy, he vaults very fast. Getting a basic hit is very hard. He can slam down pallets very fast, vault very fast. It's ridiculous. So you just can't chase him, period. Unless you're very good with blink or he has no football. That's the only way you can chase him. Otherwise, it's hell. The next one is Cowboy. He does that thing where he walks backward, and if you get too close, he jumps over you. And if you put a mirror up and he does that, then he'll go on the other side of the mirror where your basic body was. So it's hard to chase him. He can also use his lasso to lasso pallets and ciphers to get away from the mirror. So just keep that in mind. Patient, he uses his hooks. Oops, wrong person. He uses his hooks to go away. Self-explanatory, just be patient. He can go very far. Oh, did you see what I did there? Be patient with the patient. Anyways, Dancer is the next one. You kind of counter Dancer, but Dancer also kind of counters you, because in her slow box effect, you can mirror outside of that and get in that area so you can hit her, but she can also, now with the new buff that she got, she can twirl around and go in a whole different direction. So it's hard to hit her from a distance. The most that you can do with her, if she's like on a cipher, you put your mirror up and you just move it around so she goes far away during that 12 seconds so she can be off the cipher. Annie, where is she? Toy Merchant. She can get on that little stick, I don't know what it's called, the catapult, and fly away. Simple as that. You won't be able to get her with a mirror when she's flying, because BQ is not a pterodactyl. She can only walk on grass or the floor. So you're just gonna have to wait till she lands to mirror. Wilding, it's a Wilding. I don't need to explain that. He's on his boar. He's faster than you, even with Hunt sometimes. And so you're gonna have to use mirrors, blinks, Hunt to down him if you really want to get him, but he's never the first chase option. Then moving on to the last category is the people who become invisible. Explorer is the very first one. Obviously, when he's in his tiny state, you do not get the same outline as you would with any other regular survivor. That is what makes it very hard to chase him. And most of the time why you were not able to find him for that reason. You can chase him if he's in his big form, but he can keep going from big to little, and that just messes up with your brain. You end up losing him. I've done it a numerous amount of times. And it just wastes mirrors. The next one is Magician. He, of course, can use his wands to disappear. And let's say he's far away. You put up the mirror. If he's fast, he'll use the wand, and you won't be able to see his outline. If he does do that, you can wait a little bit, then turn your mirror if you have that first presence to see the direction of where he went. But you don't always get a hit off him because of that reason. You have seen me try and predict the direction of which the magician will go, and that's how I get some hits even when he's invisible, but it doesn't always work out. The last one in this little category is First Officer. Where is he? Oh, down here. So, Jose, he can obviously use his pocket watch. You put a mirror up, he uses his pocket watch, and you cannot see him for the life of anyone. It's like a survivor isn't even there. If you haven't seen me do it before, it was in my last duels video where I tried to. The perfumer was using the pocket watch, but it basically works the same as a first officer using it. When he uses his pocket watch, a timer pops up on the top left where tinnitus would be. It's like 8 seconds or something. What you want to do in that 8 seconds is walk away from the first officer, like a good medium distance, because there's a radius when that timer finishes where he pumps up that illusion again. And if you're not in that circle, the illusion fades away, and then his true body appears, and then that's when you can mirror him. Okay, so that's everyone that she counters. Now we're going to move on to who BQ counters. Firstly, she counters things with single targets, so she can't multitask or multi-hit. As I was saying before, a lot of these survivors can tank hits. She does good with people who just take 2 hits. That's 2 mirrors, and that's your first down. So things like Coordinator, Prospector, Enchantress, Mind's Eye, Lawyer, Thief, Acrobat, Mechanic without her doll. Sometimes she can body block with her doll. It's annoying, but I mean, what can you do? Prisoner, just people who can take only just 2 hits. Then she also counters stunners like Prospector, Enchantress. Who else stuns? Prisoner. Yeah. She counters those because, of course, you're gonna mirror, and the mirror can't be affected by any stuns. Only your main body can. So as long as you're a good distance away from stunners like that, you can hit them with your mirror image, and then after your mirror is up, of course, go chase them with your main body so they can waste their resources, like Enchantress's stacks or Prospector's magnets, so that the next time you get your mirror up, they won't go toward you and try and cancel the mirror or just give you a hard time going to your main body. The next group that she counters are just random people, like Ento. A lot of hunters get stuck on her bees, and sometimes she leaves the bees right when you're about to hit her so that the bees kind of keep you back. and make distance between her leaving. And that doesn't really happen because you have the mirror to go through the bees. She's still very fast while she's on her bees, but you're still able to hit her through the bees, if that makes sense. She can counter Painter if Painter has a painting in the middle. Of course, it shows the radius. You can mirror outside the radius and get the Painter from inside. Embalmer is another one that she counters, because of course you down him. In a small map, it's better because if he embalms and goes to his coffin, you can use a mirror to go to that coffin, and the mirror can go pretty far, so you're good to hit him again or do whatever you need to do. But soon this might not be a thing because I was browsing through YouTube and then I saw a bubble on Embalmer, I guess, to protect him because he always gets hit at his coffin. So that might be another thing that they change, which is very sad, but you know, life happens. But yeah, aside from that, she counters really like decoders, things like that. Just normal chase people. Coordinator, for the most part, she smart coordinators will go toward you and shoot you when you put your first mirror up. That way it just wastes it. But some coordinators, you put a mirror, you hit her, then if you get close enough, you can make them shoot you while your second mirror is still on cooldown, or like it's recharging. And it's kind of useless because right after that, like stun, your mirror is up and you just go ahead and down her. And that's pretty much it for survivors, of who she counters and who counters her. So yeah. Okay, microphone is on again. So now we're going to cover my persona build. For persona, I use the same build every single map, basically. Detention, I don't need to explain that. Trump, also don't really need to explain that. You need leeway, you need options. Trump card gives you options like abnormal at the end, excitement at the end if you need to clutch a tie and there's a harasser harassing you at one cipher and you desperately need to tear a person. And nowadays in this meta, like Geisha's even now using Trump card because the cipher rush is too much for her. And this woman has also always used Trump card. There's really no need for her to bring pallet breaking because she can walk through shit. You don't need to break anything aside from those god pallets, or I don't know what survivors call them, but those pallets that you must break, like that one in factory, so that you can actually go around that little loop instead of going out the other entrance to factory and then going around. But yeah, let's see. Tinnitus, of course. I bring 2 Berserker because it just makes it easier in case I hit the rescuer once, they rescue, then I can hit someone else again. Like let's say I hit the actual person who was on chair. The Berserker will let me blink, well, recover my thing, my hit faster. Then I can blink on, let's say, the rescuer, so that because with Berserker they haven't gotten that far, and then I can use my mirror to down the other person, if that made any sense at all. It's just attack recovery speed, you know. Then the main trait that I bring is always wanted order. This is to help to mirror to ciphers. If you're struggling with ciphers wiggling, things like that, seeing where survivors are, This helps. It helps you also aim your mirrors properly. It gives you a little bit of training with depth perception. That way you can find the middle point, have the cipher beyond them, and you can try whacking them. Announcement is actually one of the things that I really love, because it comes with wanted order, of course, because you need it in order to get wanted order. But at the end of the game, when a cipher pops, this shows you the location of everyone and who you're able to chase late game if you're doing very badly. Like, you can look at a merc with the announcement and you're like, oh, I don't really want to chase that. And then you see a mind's eye hiding in the corner. You're like, well, obviously I'm gonna go to the mind's eye. And then it also depends, like if the merc has no elbow pads, you might want to chase them instead of a perfumer, because perfumers are annoying. They just perfume and then they go back and all that stuff. I used to bring I brought this on big maps when I was first starting out, just because of the control freak. It counters cipher rush a bit. I don't know if you're into that, if you don't need the announcement, or if you're good without wanted order. Very good BQs don't need wanted order. I'm still a good BQ, but I prefer wanted order. It's like it makes me feel safe about my games. I would also bring 3 berserker and 1 announcement, just because more berserker, it just means more hits on the chair. Camping is better for you, and camping really just changes the game. Getting hits on people multiple times. What else? Oh, so I would keep 2 berserker, and then also I would bring quenching effect, because this is for mind's eyes. I've talked about this before. Like in one session, I've had this mind's eye. I could not find anyone until after blink was up. It was ridiculous. And then when I did finally find someone, it was like the forward or the psychologist, and I'm like, I can't chase that. It was so hard to tie the game. And quenching, what it basically does is same as first officer's thing. It appears on the top left. This appears on the top left for you, and it has a counter of 50 seconds. After those 50 seconds is up, if you still have not found a target or someone that you're satisfied with, like let's say you're trying to find a decoder, like a mind's eye or a mechanic, if you really want to go for the decoder, then you can bring this, and you, once the 50 seconds is up, it highlights everyone on the map, so you can see exactly their location. The thing about it though is that you're not able to hit anyone throughout those 50 seconds, even if you find like an easy hit. Like if you get an easy hit, you might not want to take it because you're still dedicated to that decoder. It's really up to you. But that's really just the builds that I use or have used in the past. It's this one, I would say I use 20% of the time. And then this one I use the other 80% of the time. Like let's see, Ching, the first BQ, and also he was the first hunter. I don't believe in desperate fight, but I've seen him put 1 on claustrophobia before. For 4 active survivors, if you're doing very badly, it helps give you more time after the ciphers popped with detention for you to use teleport, your mirrors, to try and downing people at the gate, slugging, so you can try and get that tie. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, on a side note, I have not touched BQ since like, let's see, the 23rd. I don't know when that was. It was probably like a Monday or something. But I just haven't been playing her because I don't really want to keep the S badge. I'm not gonna fall down, I don't think, by Sunday. but if I do, then it's oh well. Anyways, that's all for the guide, I believe, hopefully. Of course, there are other things that I've missed out, but that just comes with time, like game sense, how to blink. I can make videos on that separately, like how to deal with batter. I still don't know how to deal with him. I cry every time. But things like that I can make in the future to help you guys out. But this is already so long, so I'll leave timestamps. Make sure to do that. Anyways, hope this helped you. I broke down every mirror location on every map for the people who need it. Normal people would just say mirror in an open space, things like that. I went to each map and showed you specifically where I put my mirrors. So again, hopefully that is of some use to you guys, and thank you again for 2K subs. Bye bye.